Welcome in. We are live at Brookstone School ahead of our game of the week between Brookstone and Pacelli.
Yeah, coming up at sports, we'll break down the long-time rivalry in the battle for the Pacelli Jug.
And it is weekend time, and thanks for joining us at WLTZ First News at 6, where you always get your most accurate forecast first. How about we take a slide back into the low cloud and fog department later tonight into tomorrow morning. But before then, a little funny business in terms of H2O. More on the Defender Doppler when I return.
Several people injured after a shooting at a party for teenagers.
WLTZ First News starts right now.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Marlena Muma. Let's get you to your big story this evening. At a time of fierce political divide, this weekend's celebration of John McCain gave us a moment to come together. NBC White House correspondent Kelly O'Donnell now on the legacy he leaves.
By planning so much of this week's farewell himself, Senator John McCain both compelled and inspired a coming together without partisan boundary.
He did understand that some principles transcend politics.
Nicole is also nominated for another very prestigious award. Now she's a finalist for the Rice Award, which recognizes outstanding women in media.
Awesome job, Nicole. Go get it.
Big time pats on the back there. All right, tonight's the night now. NFL season kicking off in about, like I said, about an hour and a half.
Last but not least, we will head down to Auburn, where the Hornets are in town, and that is going to be the Alabama State Hornets. Once again, this is going to be the late kickoff, and at 5:30 Central. Temperatures in at the upper 80s, and by game time is over, low 80s, and a small chance to get wet. And when I say small chance, I'm thinking about a 10-20%, and that's all she wrote.
All right, thanks, Jim. And if you want the latest forecast updates, if you're on the go, you can live stream newscast as well. Just download the WLTZ First News app. It's free to download. Find it in Google Play or the App Store.
Yeah. All right, Brooke, what are you working on?
Well, for our local teams that we cover, college football is finally back this weekend. And coming up next in sports, we break down Auburn's first game of the season.
And now, WLTZ First News Sports with Brooke Kirchhofer.
Welcome back. Auburn seemed to have corrected their issues with penalties after committing 12 in their first game of the season, then cutting it down to just 4 in week 2. This week, they find themselves hitting the reset button. Auburn's defense shot themselves in the foot on LSU's last drive of the game on Saturday. During that 60-yard drive, Auburn gave LSU 30 yards in penalties, eventually leading to the winning field goal. Following last night's practice, defensive coordinator Kevin Steele called those final penalties the backbreaker in the 22-21 loss. Tensions will run high tonight in one of Columbus, Georgia's largest rivalries between Brookstone and Pacelli.
That's right, battle for the Brocelli Jug, and we'll break all of it down right after the break.
Let's go.
First collegiate tackle in that game. Then he was a 3-time All-American after that at Appalachian State, then played in the NFL for a couple of years. And Don, we are going to have much more on both of these teams coming up in just a little bit. But for now, we'll send it back to you.
All right, never forget that App State game. Good deal. Thank you, Scott. And a new Air Force training jet won't be built in eastern Alabama. Developers proposed Tuskegee's Moton Field as a site to assemble the T-100 trainer. But the Pentagon chose Boeing for this project. The news is a disappointment for officials who hoped an aircraft plant would bring a badly needed boost to the region. The T-100 project would have brought more than 750 jobs. Instead, Boeing will receive a $9.2 billion contract to produce 351 TX trainer jets, simulators, and more at a location that has not yet been announced. Well, Judge Brett Kavanaugh now inching one step closer to the Supreme Court bench, but the whole process has suddenly been thrown into question once again. Blaine Alexander reporting there's a last-minute demand from moderate Republican Jeff Flake.
None of the Republicans on this...
Moments before the Senate Judiciary Committee voted to approve Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh, Republican Jeff Flake calling for a delay in the confirmation process to allow for an FBI investigation.
I think it would be proper to delay the floor vote for up to but not more than 1 week.
The vote happening so quickly, it was unclear whether Flake's request would even be honored. Flake is one of the make-or-break votes, along with fellow Republican Lisa Murkowski, who backed his call for a delay.
In other news, police say 7 young people injured after a shooting in downtown Birmingham. It happened after a teenage party Sunday night. Police say there were 6 victims. They're between just 15 years old and 20. They were shot, one of them sustaining a life-threatening injury. All 6 had to be hospitalized. There was a 7th person who was injured, but no details on the condition. Officials say most of the victims were not involved in whatever it was that started the shooting.
All right, they're getting us ready. We will have all of your highlights on Touchdown tonight after all the games.
And we are getting closer and closer to this Rapper game getting kicked off. But for now, Don, we'll send it back to you.
Good deal. Thank you very much, Scott and Brooke. The Cougars and the Vikings sounds like a pretty good matchup there. Check this out now. A miniature wheelchair made out of Legos and plumber's putty, giving an eastern box turtle a new lease on life. Zookeepers say this injured turtle was discovered at a Baltimore park on this summer. He suffered multiple fractures on the bottom part of his shell. In order for him to heal properly, though, zookeepers needed to find a way to keep his bottom shell off the ground, and that's when they created a mini wheelchair. And according to zookeepers, he's going to use that wheelchair until he's completely healed. It's nice. South Carolina man in custody tonight after a police officer was killed in a shootout. Numerous other officers wounded here. Police in Florence, about 80 miles east of Columbia, say 6 other officers have gunshot wounds. It's unclear the extent of their injuries, but 2 officers were described, unfortunately, as being, quote, touch and go tonight. People in the neighborhood said officers responded to a shots fired call at a home.
These officers went there unknowing the firepower the suspect had. And again, they thought it was a random search warrant.
The sheriff's office says the suspect surrendered and that a 20-year-old male in the home was injured also. South Carolina's Governor Henry McMaster calling the shooting devastating tonight. Much, Jim. Thank you so much for joining us tonight right here on First News. As always, The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon up next. Have yourself a wonderful evening.
You say Jimmy.
Hashtag ain't nobody got time to hate Jimmy.
I love Jimmy Fallon. Never miss The Tonight Show with Jimmy. I love Jimmy Fallon.